Four massive things happened in AI this week and they all landed at the same time. Meta finally built its very own frontier AI model and it's already behind before most people even heard about it. OpenAI just quietly added a new $100 coding plan to go directly after Anthropic, and the numbers show exactly who is winning that fight right now. A Chinese open source model nobody expected just topped every coding benchmark and can run completely alone for 8 straight hours. And YouTubers are now suing Apple, claiming the company secretly scrapped millions of their videos to train AI without asking anyone. So let's talk about it. Let's start with Meta because this one is a big deal in a very complicated way. Meta just released Muse Spark, the first model from their new group called Meta Superintelligence Labs. And the headline sounds impressive. Their first frontier grade model, built from scratch, designed for multimodal reasoning, to use visual thinking, and running multiple AI agents at the same time. Meta themselves describe it as small and fast by design and call it explicitly the first step on their scaling ladder. Not a finished product, but a proof that their new stack actually works before they build bigger. On paper, this is Meta showing up to the frontier race, and honestly, it kind of is. But there is a catch, and it's a big one. Here is the thing. Meta scored 52 points on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, which put them in the top 5 among all models tested right now. That sounds great until you see who ranked above them. Gemini 3.1 Pro, GPT 5.4, and Claude 4.6 all scored higher. So Meta entered the room, looked around, and found themselves in 4th or 5th place on day 1. And for a company that has been building AI for years with almost unlimited money, that is not the entrance they wanted. The really surprising part that most people missed is what this means for Meta's famous open source strategy. For years, Meta was the one company releasing their Llama models for everyone to download and use freely. Developers loved them for that. Businesses built entire products on top of them. And now, Muse Spark is completely closed. You cannot download it. You cannot run it on your computer. Meta quietly became just like every other big AI company, building models behind a wall. Their chief AI officer Alexander Wang did say they plan to open source future versions, but right now the open strategy that Meta was known for is basically paused. Now here is where it gets interesting on the technical side. Meta did not just copy what everyone else is doing, they rebuilt their entire training system from the ground up over 9 months. The result is a model that uses more than 10 times less computing power to match what their older Llama 4 Maverick model could do. That is a real efficiency win. They also built something called contemplating mode, which runs multiple AI agents thinking at the same time instead of just one agent thinking longer. In this mode, Muse Spark hit 58% on humanity's last exam, which is one of the hardest tests in the field. That is actually competitive with Gemini DeepThink and GPT Pro modes. And artificial analysis confirmed that Muse Spark used only 58 million output tokens to complete their full test, which is almost the same as Gemini 3.1 Pro at 57 million. Claude 4.6, for comparison, used 157 million. In fairness though, there are clear weaknesses. On the GDPeople AA work task benchmark, which tests how useful the model is in real jobs, Muse Spark scored 1,427 points. Claude Sonnet 4.6 scored 1,648 and GPT 5.4 scored 1,676. The gap in coding and long-running tasks is still real. Meta even admitted it themselves, saying there are performance gaps in coding and long horizon tasks. And one thing nobody expected from the safety testing, the model kept recognizing when it was being evaluated and decided to behave honestly because it knew it was being tested. Apollo Research called this the highest rate of evaluation awarenesses they have ever seen in any model. Meta looked into it and concluded it was not a blocking concern for the release. but they flagged it as something that needs more research. That is either reassuring or a little unsettling depending on how you look at it. Now let's move to the coding war, because this is where things get really loud really fast. OpenAI just introduced a brand new $100 per month ChatGPT Pro tier, sitting below the existing $200 plan. And the target is completely obvious. Anthropic's Claude Code is running away with the developer market, and OpenAI is trying to stop the bleeding. This is not a price cut. The $200 plan still exists. OpenAI added a cheaper entry point and pushed the $200 plan off their main pricing page entirely, which tells you everything about where they want developers to go. And the crazy part is how dramatic the gap has already become. Claude Code hit $2.5 billion in annualized revenue by February of 2026. That is more than doubled in just 3 months from the $1 billion milestone it hit in November 2025. And RAMP, which tracks real corporate spending across more than 50,000 businesses, found that among companies buying AI services for the first time, Anthropic now wins roughly 70% of head-to-head matchups against OpenAI. A year ago, only 1 in 25 businesses on RAMP paid for Anthropic. Now it's nearly 1 in 4. That shift is stunning. Meanwhile, Codex has grown to 3 million weekly users, which is a 5-fold increase in 3 months, and usage is growing over 70% month over month. OpenAI is growing fast too, but they are clearly chasing. So the new $100 plan gives developers a 5 times more Codex usage than the $20 plus plan. The existing $200 plan is still available but is no longer shown on OpenAI's main pricing page, which tells you where they want people to go. OpenAI is also giving new $100 subscribers a temporary 10x boost that lasts through May 31st, and they are resetting usage limits every million new users until they hit 10 million. These are aggressive moves that cost a lot of money to run. Forbes reported, citing Cursor's internal analysis, that a $200 Claude Code subscription can burn through roughly $5,000 in compute at retail API prices, though that figure reflects what competitors like Cursor pay to offer the same experience, not necessarily Anthropic's own internal cost. Either way, both companies are clearly eating big losses right now to win developer loyalty. The price match is now almost perfect. Anthropic already has a max 5x at $100 and max 20x at $200. OpenAI now has the exact same structure. Both are targeting the same developers at the same price points. And an OpenAI spokesperson said directly that their new tier delivers more coding capacity per dollar than Claude Code, which is a claim that is very hard to test independently because it depends on how you work. The real competition at this point is not price, it's quality and developer experience. And there is a third player making this even more interesting, Cursor, the AI code editor that is reportedly being valued at $50 billion, just launched its third major version. GitHub Copilot is also in the room at $10 per month, which is far cheaper than everyone else. The four-way fight between OpenAI, Anthropic, Cursor, and GitHub means developers have more power right now than at any point since AI coding tools started. The question is whether OpenAI's new price is enough to stop what looks like a clear shift in momentum toward Anthropic. Now here's the story that genuinely surprised researchers. Chinese AI lab Z.ai, formerly known as ZPU.ai, just released ZLM 5.1, a 754 billion parameter open weights model under a free MIT license, and it just topped SWE-Bench Pro, the hardest real-world coding benchmark, with a score of 58.4%. Claude 4.6 scored 57.3%. GPT 5.4 scored 57.7%. GLM 5.1 beat both of them, and it is completely free to download and use commercially. The real breakthrough though is not the benchmark number, it is the endurance. GLM 5.1 can work on its own for more than 8 hours without stopping. It plans, runs experiments, reads the results, finds problems, and fixes them across hundreds of rounds and thousands of tool calls all by itself. Earlier models, including the previous GLM5, would run out of things to try and just stop improving after a while. GLM 5.1 keeps going. Z.ai literally says in their model description, the longer it runs, the better the result. An 8-hour threshold means this model can do things like rewrite entire code bases, do long debugging sessions, and handle complex deployments that used to need humans watching the whole time. On CyberG, the score jumped 20.4 points from the previous version. Terminal Bench 2.0 went up 7.3 points. NL2 Repo climbed 6.8 points. These are not small improvements, and the model weighs 1.51 terabyte in Hugging Face, making it one of the biggest open weight models you can actually download. API access through OpenRouter is also available at $1.26 per million input tokens and $3.96 per million output tokens, with a 202,752 token context window. In fairness, GLM 5.1 is not the best at everything. On browse form, it scores 68%, while Gemini 3.1 Pro leads at 85.9%. On the Vending Bench 2 economic task test, it earned $5,634, while Claude Opus 4.6 earned $8,017, and GPT 5.4 earned $6,144. Math and reasoning benchmarks also show GPT 5.4 and Gemini ahead in several areas. And interestingly, the entire model was trained on Hawaii chips using the MindSpore framework, with no US-made hardware involved at all. When independent developer Simon Wilson tested it by asking it to draw a pelican on a bicycle in SVG format, the model surprised him by generating a full animated HTML page on its own without being asked. When the animation broke and the pelican flew off to the wrong corner of the screen, he told the model what went wrong in one line. GLM 5.1 explained exactly what the technical problem was, why it happened with CSS transforms and SVG coordinates, and fixed it in a single response. Wilson said the static output was his new favorite from any OpenWorks model. The timing here is also significant. Meta just quietly stepped back from open source with Muse Spark. Z.ai is going in the exact opposite direction. They are betting that free and open beat closed and expensive, at least in coding. And right now, the numbers back them up. And then there is the last story, and it might have the longest legs of all four. Creators are going to war with Apple. 3 YouTube channels, including H3H3 Productions run by Ethan Klein, Mr. Short Game Golf, and Golfholics, filed a class action lawsuit against Apple in California federal court. The claim is that Apple secretly scrapped millions of YouTube videos without permission to train their AI models. The technical center of the lawsuit is a dataset called Panda 70M, which indexes roughly 70.8 million video clips drawn from approximately 3.1 million YouTube videos. That is the number cited directly in the legal complaint. Snap Inc. compiled the dataset and it was published at a major computer vision conference in 2024. The lawsuit claims Apple used this dataset or something similar built from YouTube content to train Apple Intelligence. The filing also says Apple bypassed YouTube's technical systems that normally stop people from bulk downloading videos. Regular users can only watch through the standard streaming player. Apple allegedly went around all of that to grab videos at scale. Here is the smart legal move that makes this case different from most AI copyright lawsuits. Instead of using standard copyright law, which requires proving the AI actually copied content in a way you can point to, the lawyers used DMCA anti-circumvention claims. The DMCA says you cannot break the technical laws on copyrighted content. It does not matter what you do with the content after. If you broke the law to get to it, that is already a violation. And statutory damages under the DMCA range from $200 to $2,500 per act of circumvention. When you multiply that across millions of videos, the numbers become very large very fast. And this is not just Apple. These same three plaintiffs have been filing lawsuits in a clear sequence. Nvidia was first, back in November 2025, then Meta and ByteDance in December, then Snap in January 2026, then OpenAI and Apple both on 3rd April, and then Amazon just days later in Seattle. 7 companies, 7 separate cases, all built on the same legal argument. The strategy is clear. If any of these cases wins, it creates a legal precedent that helps all the others. Apple has not publicly responded to any of this, and the broader context makes this feel inevitable. A 2024 investigation found that Apple, NVIDIA, and Anthropic had used YouTube transcripts for AI training. A 2025 investigation documented companies scrapping millions of YouTube videos, and what investigators called industrial creators have been watching this happen and talking about it for years. The lawsuits are the next step, and because US Congress has not passed any laws about AI training data yet, the DMCA is one of the only tools creators actually have. If the court rules in favor of the creators, AI companies may be forced to get licenses from content platforms before they train on their videos. That would change the entire economics of building AI systems. That is where we will wrap it up. Four stories, four different directions, but they all point to the same thing. The AI race is moving faster and getting messier at the same time. Meta finally soared up to the frontier but found themselves behind on day one. OpenAI is in a real price war with Anthropic for developer loyalty, and the gap is still growing. China just dropped a free model that beats everyone at coding and works alone for 8 hours, and creators are starting to fight back against the companies that build AI on their work without asking. The question now is, which of these seats will matter most 6 months from now? Drop your thoughts below, make sure you are subscribed, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next one.